So we are a couple of days now into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and it's been a pretty horrendous launch. But I wanted to take some time today to see if our add-ons from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 will work in 2024. We're going to be looking at third-party airports from a range of developers. We're going to be discussing third-party aircraft, and of course that rascal GSX. So let's dive in. So given the time we've had of it over the last couple of days, let's start with some good news. The good news is that the scenery I've tested so far has been pretty good. I've tested payware and freeware scenery from a range of developers, and the results were pretty impressive. I started out at Edinburgh V2 by Pirigi, moved down to Manchester from Mako Simulations, then we crossed the Irish Sea to check out Dublin from MK Studios, hopped over to Heathrow from AnyBuilds, and finally ended up at our beloved Gatwick Airport, a freeware piece of scenery from flightsim.to. Now, I appreciate that is only a small number of airports, and given how many there are worldwide, I can't possibly test them all. But what I wanted to do was get a range of airports from different developers, including a free option from flightsim.to. I'm happy to report that I didn't experience any issues while I was briefly at all of these airports. They all seem to load in okay. Obviously, I can't taxi around every taxiway to make sure every single thing is fine, but from what I saw, it's certainly an encouraging start. There wasn't one that caused a crash or had some big, obvious, weird thing going on, so I think our odds are pretty good for other airports, also working without too much fuss most of the time. As for how you install these sceneries into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is, well, you need to go to your new community folder. I will leave the locations of these community folders in the video description, as it's going to vary depending on how you purchase the game. If you bought it through Steam, you're going to have one location. If you went via the Microsoft Store or Game Pass, you're going to have another location. But check the description. I will leave it in there for you. Now, it's not good advice to do this, but I just kind of crudely copy and pasted from my 2020 community folder straight into the 2024 community folder to do this today. And while it worked out for today, longer term, I'm obviously going to want to get things installed properly via the management apps from the different scenery stores I use when things settle down a bit. So for airports, we're off to a pretty good start, I'd say. Now, this is where things get a bit messier, the planes. From my point of view, the must-haves in terms of third-party aircraft are the Fenix A320 family, that includes the 319, 321 and so on, the PMDG 737 and 777, and of course the A320neo and A380 from Fly-by-Wire. At the time of recording, which is Thursday the 21st of November, we've heard from PMDG. They've put out a forum post. I'll link to it below if you want to read the whole thing. In short though, PMDG have been having the same issues as in the sim as we all have, and while they are struggling to complete a thorough vetting process of their products, one thing they do know is that we shouldn't expect the 777 to work in 2024 due to changes under the hood in the sim that make the plane corrupt its own memory allocation. The 737 is allegedly a bit better in this regard, although it will eventually do the same thing. Their original hope was that they could perhaps get our 2020 PMDG products into 2024 by the weekend, but it now may be some weeks if they're able to do it at all. An important line from the forum post is, "Work is ongoing and none of the information provided herein is to be considered final." And it's really important. This is complex stuff. There's a lot of moving parts. It's important that we as a community remember that. As for Fenix, we heard from them yesterday, November 20th, via their Discord that they too are struggling to launch Flight Sim 2024 and begin testing the Fenix A320 family of aircraft. Until the team have gotten fully up and running and have completed their investigations, they can't provide any sort of timeline, which is fair enough, though they did say that our previous statement of not anticipating charging for any updates to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 unless there are severe changes required still stands, which is encouraging. As for Fly-by-Wire, they've been very upfront about their products not supporting Flight Sim 2024. You've got to remember that, a team of volunteers essentially. I dragged and dropped the A32NX and the A380X from my 2020 community folder into 2024, and I managed to do a quick loop around Gatwick in the A32NX, though on landing the performance was really bad. And I'm not sure whether that's the freeware Gatwick doing this, or the A32NX, or just the sim being weird. It wouldn't be the first time that the sim has given us really randomly poor performance with all the server issues going on. As for the A380, I tried to spawn in with it, but I found myself kind of half in the ground and then the sim crashed. So yeah, not great. Moving on to GSX, you can use their installer and select 2024 as your sim, and it will then kind of install GSX properly into Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. There were a few rough edges though. Some of the prompts you get that appear on screen, they were only half visible. And using the AnyBuilds A330 to park up and test the deboarding feature was a little bit weird. The cargo loaders were all in the wrong place, as were the stairs, though I can forgive it for all of this. The A330 is a brand new plane in the sim, and it's most likely that this will all be updated by an update in GSX in due course. I am pleased to report though that GSX did manage to successfully push me back from the gate, which is 90% of what I use GSX for anyway, so 2 thumbs up there. And it kind of surprised me that it worked, because obviously we had problems with the deboarding, with it not knowing where like the different doors were and things like that. So I thought, well, is it going to know how to push me back properly? And yes, it did. Really good. So a bit of a mixed bag. The airports aren't looking so bad right now. The planes aren't looking great though. I think we're going to have to be patient on that front. It's a huge amount of work to develop these study level airliners, so it's no wonder you can't just drag and drop them between sims. The A32NX was the one that had a little bit of luck. I managed to obviously do a quick loop around Gatwick, but the performance was very bad on the landing. Possible that it wasn't the fault of the plane and more the fault of the scenery, or like we said, it could just be the sim being weird right now. I was in a default plane at a default airport earlier on today on one of the few occasions that I could actually launch the sim, and my frames per second just hit the deck for some reason and then eventually came back. So I do want to start performance testing the sim. I've got a load of data in 2020 that I did ahead of time in preparation for the launch of 2024, and I don't feel like it's fair to start doing performance testing in 2024 yet, just because of this weird situation we're in right now with so many bugs, so many server-side performance issues. I think we need to let things settle down, and then we'll start testing performance properly. So get subs so you don't miss it. It is coming. I just don't think it's fair to do it right now. And I guess this kind of all leads me to say, how are you all feeling so far? You know, it's been a rough couple of days, and I won't lie, there's a massive part of me that feels like I should just, you know, up sticks and go back to Flight Sim 2020 until all of this blows over. I can barely get into the sim, and when I do get into the sim and I try to do anything that resembles a cold and dark, I end up trapped in the belly of the plane and I can't escape. I went into career mode and tried to get that to work, and I ended up in the plane, and they said move around the plane or walk around the plane to do like the walk around thing, and it's like, but I'm in the plane, and then I couldn't escape the plane to do the walk around, so I was just kind of stuck in this like infinite loop of being stuck. I then tried to do a cold and dark setup from Gatwick Airport at a gate in the A330, and I ended up spawning in the cargo hold, and I was just completely trapped. I couldn't get out, and again it was saying like walk around the plane, do your checks. It's like I can't do that. So then I just couldn't get any further. So a little bit of a mess. Maybe it is best to steer clear of 2024 for a while until this all blows over. Anyway, I'll leave this one here. Thank you very much for watching. Leave us a comment, let us know how you're feeling, and while you're there, hitting the like button really helps the video and the channel a ton. Until next time though, look after yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, happy flying.